One, two, three. Long time no see, Ed.
Yeah, I know. You look like you've aged.
Very exciting. I'm excited about the Swift Park.
Yeah, me too.
Really going to be such an improvement.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Speaking of aged, I thought I'd join you.
Hello, Al.
Yes.
The background makes you look very
Yeah.
young. Don't worry.
Yeah, but I want the sidewalks, Ed.
Yeah, you know, if you make them 40 feet wide, you don't have to worry about traffic.
No,
It was refreshing not to have to talk about them today.
I know.
It's a full moon too. I'm surprised that you didn't bring them up.
You know what? In the interest of time.
Maybe we should stick to half-an-hour meetings then.
Oh, Tom, Wayne, Amanda.
Yeah, we have a quorum, I think.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Evening.
I think we do. Speaking of 30-minute meetings, John.
Stephanie, I'm sorry.
I said, speaking of 30-minute meetings, this one might not be a long one.
Yeah, I know. This might be the night.
Right?
That might be the night.
Okay, it's 7:01, Chair.
Let's do it. So we will call the meeting to session. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote. Remote attendance shall count toward quorum. As always, the meeting may be broadcast live and or be recorded by ECAT. So with that said, let me take a roll call. Jim Lee. See the name. I know he's on the phone.
Yep.
Ed Hands.
Present?
Greg will not be able to make it. Al Benson.
Present?
Dennis Sheedy. Probably on his way. John Ventresco.
Here.
Amanda Varela.
Here.
Meredith Keach.
Here.
Tom Broussard is present, and rolling back to Jim Lee.
Here.
Here we go.
Welcome, Sarah. All right. So with that, we did receive minutes for the March 9th, 2023 regular session. Unless there are any issues, questions, or concerns, we'll pause. I would take a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
That'll be Hands and Ventresco by a hair over Jim Lee. Going around the horn, Al Benson,
Aye.
Amanda Varela,
Aye.
Meredith Keach,
Aye.
Jim Lee,
Aye.
Ed Hands,
Aye.
John Ventresco,
Aye.
Tom Broussard is an aye. Thank you so much. We do have slated up the next bullet point, the Town Hall Landscape Plan CPA project update on the matching grant award. Say that 55 times quick, Mr. Beitler. Why don't you let us know what you have for us?
Thank you. Without trying to do the tongue twister, it is confirmation that we did in fact get the survey and planning grant that we had applied for, which is great news. It's $30,000. So it will have the total cost of the Town Hall Landscape project, assuming it does get approved at town meeting. As with most Mass Historical Commission grants, it is a matching reimbursement grant, which means you have to match the amount they give you and you have to expend it all before they reimburse you what you spend. So we do have to appropriate and expend all 60 grand before we get our $30,000 grant, but we're pretty excited to get it.
Great.
That's great work. That's awesome. Well done. Thank you for the update. Any questions, team? Do you just want to share live, presented last night at FinCom for what they probably felt was too long a period of time? I think it was about an hour and 45 minutes to cover our warrant articles.
Wow.
But they did vote there were some really good questions that were asked. So it wasn't just me using all my words, John. But they asked some really good questions. They all unanimously supported all of the warrant articles. And it was just really nice to see. I took some time to educate them about the CPA, its history, the number of projects we've engaged on, dollars, and all that good stuff. So really great call. They had a few questions that Wayne already, I think, were answered all of them, but we have one from Wendy that we're holding on. And so I do just want to give you all credit. Once again, I think we ran an incredible process. We had great applications as a result of that process. And we were pretty thorough in our questions and what we were asking of the applicants. That made us have truly prepared warrant articles that I think all boards voted unanimously to support. So it was really cool. Hi, Amanda.
Perhaps we don't have to do this anymore, but do we have to read the remote meeting stuff? And did we do that?
Oh,
I missed it.
Yes, I think you do still.
I
Yes.
read the
Tom
remote.
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Is
Did
it
that.
shorter than it used to be? I must have been asleep at the wheel.
I missed it too, but
I have that effect. I really put people at ease.
yes, you
Yeah.
have a way
well,
of
better to be
saying
safe
a
than
lot
sorry.
succinctly.
Yep. You don't even know it, Amanda. You just wrote me a check and mailed it. You have no idea. Yeah, it's great. Beautiful magic trick. Yeah, I read the first paragraph in keeping with and ending recorded with ECAD.
Okay.
Perfect. And then I did do roll call.
Did it
Had
all
that
then. I
going
just
for me.
feel like it used to be longer, but whatever.
It was longer, Amanda. We figured a way to shorten it and still get the substance.
Okay, fabulous.
Perfect.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, not at all. So that was just a great meeting last night. We do have a report. Want to give credit to Al, Wayne, and Stephanie for really working hard and looking at all of our projects that we have and identifying which projects, as we talked about in a previous meeting, we could reclaim the funds. Wayne has sent, we've done some really, I think, thoughtful communication with those folks that head up the prior projects that were reclaiming funds, meaning we didn't just take them. So Wayne did some thoughtful outreach, making sure we followed up with an email. So we have a good paper trail, a good audit process. And as a result, Wayne, do you want to show your screen and walk us through the document? Do you want me to show my screen? I can do that. I'll do that.
Wayne, you're muted.
I think his facial.
The last time I
expression-
tried sharing my screen with this, board meeting, everything froze up. It was a
Got it.
disaster. Yeah.
Well, let's see if I can share mine. Hopefully everybody can see this.
Thank you for making it a little bit bigger. Perfect. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
Perfect. So in essence, what Wayne did was put every project on a list. He, Al, Stephanie, myself met a couple times. And essentially we identified $367,000 worth of projects that we will be recapturing funds from. They date back to 2009, all the way through to the Unionville pickleball fields. And so again, just really good hygiene, making sure we are circling back, recapturing funds for future use, and cleanup. So again, sorted by date. The top group is recaptured. This is in your packet, by the way. The middle group are funds that we had from prior projects, but are being reallocated to current projects. So appreciate you putting that labeling in, Wayne. And then the last group is what we call active unspent. And that's about $1.5 million worth of activity that's left as active unspent. So I'll pause there in case there are any comments or thoughts, but again, this is just really best practice, good hygiene.
yeah, this is great. Nice and clean. Excellent.
Tom, can I ask a question? It's Meredith.
Please.
So, is there a way to sort of raise a flag and say, please don't send this money back? It could continue to be used. I'm just curious how this works. So for example, Kristen Kennedy had asked me about the money for Alley's Park, and we do have areas where that 5,000 we would like to allocate, and pickleball as well. There are a lot more things that we can do at Unionville and would like to with those funds. So is this just an accounting, or is it, if it's currently unused, it's got to go back to
Yeah,
somewhere else?
good question. So it's probably a combo, meaning we asked people for the recapture of funds, for example, like the Children's Museum, confirming that we will be confirming with them that they're not doing those projects, that they're inactive. Now, for the pickleball courts, two things come to mind in our recommendation to pull back these funds. One, we knew, I think the way the warrant article is written, the latitude to do much more doesn't exist, and I might be wrong on that, but it was pretty specific. The second is, we know that we purposefully had extra money in the pickleball courts after the second warrant article and the estimates came in. And I think since we're building 5 new pickleball courts at the school and outlaying the money, that reallocating them for the construction of those pickleball courts there would probably be more prudent, as opposed to adding, I won't call them bells and whistles, but adding accoutrements onto the existing pickleball that was in fact satisfied by the warrant article and the funds provided. But like Alley's Park is a great example, and this is why I think it's best practice that Wayne reaches out and makes sure that they're aware we will be looking to recapture these funds. Stephanie, did I
Okay.
have the pickleball warrant article language relative to spend?
You know, I was just going to look it up if you. Let's see, hold on. I think I can get it.
And I
pretty
guess in
quickly.
short, Meredith, it's a fine line between being fiscally responsible and being able to run a project in lower than budget. And as opposed to, not always, again, Alley's Park's a great example of continuing to use the monies available, but to bring back the funds so they can be used towards future projects.
I've got the warrant article. Should I read it, email it to people? Would that be helpful?
Both?
I'd love to read it.
Okay, so this is Article 16 for 320,000 from the November 30, 2020 special town meeting. Unionville Field revitalization, to see if the town will vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of 320,000 from available community preservation funds for improvements at Unionville Field, including construction of up to 6 new pickleball courts with associated fencing, access paths, expanded parking, and site drainage, or take any other action relative thereto. And then the vote reads, Select Board Member Broussard moved that the town vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of 320,000 from unreserved Community Preservation Fund balance for improvements at Unionville Field as printed in warrant article under Article 10.
And importantly, not only is it the warrant article, it's the underlying support that was provided for that warrant article. Meaning if a design plan was submitted and items were included in that design plan. So let me give you a good example. I'm not saying this happened, but design plan comes back and it calls for 4 fields. We approve 4 fields. We approve money for 4 fields. The bids come back so low, the applicant can't decide to put 6 fields in. They have to adhere to the 4 fields. That's what we voted on. That's what is in the underlying support for the warrant articles. And so I think there's probably some consideration of what the underlying materials were as well. Do you want to follow up offline, Meredith, and after we get a chance to review those underlying materials and any specific items that might come up?
Yeah, definitely I can do that. And just, I'm just asking questions more in case there's anybody who's listening or watching, the meeting in the future to sort of understand CPA funding and how they work, just those types of clarifications. So just a little bit further with using the pickleball courts. So now that they've been constructed, as we've seen with Edwin's Park and Alley's Park, after a park sort of gets up and running and is in use and there are people there every day, and we kind of can take a step back and take a look and say, okay, what's need here? Let's do a little evaluation. How could we do things further, better, whatnot. So in the instance of that, Edwin's Park, for example, we needed sheds. And so, we put some sheds up there because of, the ball fields needed places to put the drag nets and whatnot. So in the case of the pickleball courts, now that it's being used, if folks who are using it, rec, whatever, finds that there's a need for, I don't know, shading or a shed, as in the instance we had there, would then an applicant go in through the process again to apply for funding to fund, let's say, a shed? I guess that's what I'm asking here.
Yeah, I think that would be a best practice, candidly. I think that there's certainly discussions to be had depending upon what the request is, perhaps, but a meaningful disbursement of funds outside the scope of the materials in the warrant article that the materials supported would, in my opinion, warrant further discussion from the CPC and additional application.
Thank you.
It's a great question. I guess where I'm going with it is if the drainage culvert needed to be extended and it cost more because we realized it wasn't done right, A, we would probably go back to the installer, or B, we would try to fix something that was embedded in the existing warrant article that might have not been perfected appropriately in its execution. I could get that. And by the way,
Thank
team,
you.
I think that's a great question. I don't want you all to, you may have in your years of experience had different examples and ways to articulate dealing with it. So I'm happy to get feedback from the committee. Ed?
Before we presented the final warrant article, didn't we take a few extraneous things that weren't fields out of that proposal?
Yes.
And if we did,
Yes.
would those be, since they were part of the original concept and idea, would they be something that you could build back without a further thing? And by the way, I don't think it's, a big deal to reapply, because obviously if it's something we could use, we'd probably do it anyway. But just wondering.
Yeah, I just get uncomfortable with what we went to the town residents with in terms of what we voted on, and therefore used as substantial supporting evidence in the warrant article with the add back. But I think that's a fair point too. I agree with you, Ed. I guess the cleaner way for me would be that when they came before us with that application, we would appreciate they remove those elements from a cost saving perspective. And I think that sets the example for applicants to come, that it's not about spending every dollar that we give you. It's about completing the project as fiscally disciplined as possible, as successfully as possible. And, we're very happy and open to further applications to address components that might be identified either through the process or after the process, and would support that applicant through to town meeting again with another warrant article.
Tom, can I make a note?
Sure.
I came in under budget with Alley's Park, just saying.
You did. You crushed it. Two things. Team, also want to acknowledge Dennis. She joined the call, so official voting member. Nice to have you, Dennis. Second thing, just any more questions on this sheet? Perfect. I think every.
I have a question,
Oh,
Tom.
Sure, I'll go for it.
Do we have a timing on when we can do this? And we have a meeting coming up before the town meeting, so would it be possible to try to get the confirmations from those residuals that that are outstanding? So we may vote on it on the next meeting?
Yep. So good news is we checked it out. We are targeting next meeting. And when I say we checked it out, we checked out that actually an official vote is not required for the recapture of funds. But I do propose that we as a CPC indicate our approval of the recapture of these funds. And so I just think that's good practice and transparency. But I appreciate that ask, Al. So it would be next meeting unless for some reason Stephanie's about to say we can't do that.
No, I have another comment
Got it.
on Unionville, but I'll let this play out first.
Sure. Wayne, could you add to your list of items that I need an answer to? I forgot to send you a question. What the unreserved fund balance is by each of our major components? Affordable housing, open space and rec, because the unreserved balances are by bucket, aren't they?
No, the
It's all in one bucket, so we don't have anything by bucket?
I think there are like maybe 4 buckets, like you do your 10% set aside for your historic, your
set-asides,
open
yeah.
space and your
Yeah.
community. And sometimes there's still money left because you haven't spent your 10% on, say, historic resources or an open space or a rec or something.
Right.
So there may be money left in that 10%. And then separate from that is the sort of general unreserved that's not dedicated to any of those 3.
Correct.
I don't know, tranches or something.
right.
Yep. So if I could just get the 4 buckets, you're right, that would be great. That was asked last night as well. Stephanie, you wanted to talk about?
Just very quickly, I'm sorry, I'm
it's okay.
suffering from allergies, so my voice is a little miffed. So we are still holding back contingency on the pickleball court, which you do until you're satisfied everything is completed. Where the project completed the end of, actually in the fall, we are still holding that. There are some fixes that need to be done, so we may hold that for a little bit longer. And I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. Because Wayne, that's not reflected, or that contingency is reflected in the remaining balance.
Yep, and so that's why I've got the recapture pending spring inspection. It's to make sure that everything's done and approved.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we just have timing of recapture, Wayne, that we can speak to next week.
Yep,
Good
and
point.
maybe that's just one that sort of dangles out and everything else is wrapped up.
Exactly. Okay. Next up, any more questions just on the list? Perfect. Next up is CPA applications for the May 2024, already looking ahead to the annual town meeting. We just wanted to talk about the process, outreach, application. Wayne did just an incredible job of putting together an updated packet with a little bit of commentary. Let's see. Here it is. I'll share my screen again. And happy to get feedback. So hopefully you all had a chance to read it. If you haven't, please feel free to read it after this meeting, and at the next meeting, we can just make sure we're all aligned. In terms of general timing, basically we're looking by the end of June to have letters of interest that are due. Same process as this year in terms of we want to have letters of interest first. September draft applications are due. November and December. So from those drafts, we will then stagger when presentations for final applications would be reviewed. So more straightforward applications might be done in November. December might have some more complex applications. January and February, the CPC will vote to recommend, we'll really review for inclusion in the warrant. There is one thing I added, team, just so that you know, I'm a big fan of the asterisks, so to speak. In this case, it's this particular line, which says that it's basically creating awareness that if there is an emergency nature or to an application or an application of such obvious benefit, we do reserve the right to not go through this process. I would ask that we as a committee be incredibly diligent or scrutinizing about what we do there. But this way, if there's an emergency historic repair that needs to get done, or just in general, it's nice to have the ability for us to point to something where somebody says, you know, why did you do theirs but not mine? And basically it's because we reserve the right to show that discretion type thing.
Great.
What else? Other than that, I think a lot of it was pretty straightforward, Wayne. It was from last year. I think
Yeah.
to me, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is essentially rerunning what we did with this past process with the timeline a bit altered. I think for next year, the next process, not this one, but the next one, we may want to start the letters of interest a bit earlier in the year to give a little more lead time for projects to, you know, work on actual applications and budgets and so forth. But I was chatting with, you know, Meredith a couple days ago, and the CPC has had a very heavy agenda of very complicated projects to consider. So there just really hasn't been, I think, the bandwidth up until now.
Good point. Any questions on the application of the process team? All right, Wayne, Stephanie, I will thank you again. I think that's all we had. I don't want to brag, but John's last meeting was 30 minutes. We're at 26. So it might be a competitive nature to this a little bit. I don't have any reasonable items not anticipated. So team, I'm not a fan of keeping you. Is there anything that you all want to consider for next meeting? Just shoot a message. I'm happy to add it to the meetings. We have some more time. So if we want to have a little bit more discussion and debate, so to speak, about topics or ways to improve our outreach, more soft topics like that, I'm happy to put that on the agenda for more of a ideation session and just strategic planning discussions as well.
I make
If
a
I-
motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, Al Benson,
Aye.
Amanda Varela,
Aye.
Jim Lee,
Aye.
Meredith Teach,
Aye.
Dennis Sheedy,
Aye.
Ed Hands,
Aye.
John Francesco.
Aye.
Tom Broussard is an aye. Thank you all so much. Stay cool out there if you can.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Aye.
Night.
Bye, everybody. Be well.